Mother Nature, the way she expresses nature and plants and humanity and everything, the way each of us express ourselves is kind of a fractal of nature, and something being artificial or man-made, like, because humans, we are made of nature. Anything we make is also technically being made of nature by the transitive property.
Yes.
At least that's what I believe. So the same thing goes with like AI. It's artificial because humans made it, but we are natural, so maybe AI and all these digital art creations is still a natural process.
This is the Human Future Podcast, where we explore the intersection of technology and spirituality with some of the world's brightest minds. Together, we paint a vision of the desirable future and discuss the actionable steps to make that vision a reality. And now, without further ado, let's begin. Welcome. Thank you, brother, for being here. What an honor to have you in the space, to have you as someone I know as well. Always admire your character of you would say fearlessness, of stepping into the most maybe uncomfortable places with this feeling of fearlessness. I see you doing that over and over again. You're really expanding yourself. And I mean, becoming an artist is one of those things. It's a very much uncertain, like a land of uncertainty that you're stepping into. Unless you have rich parents who can support you in whatever you're doing. If you're doing it on your own and things like that, there's a lot of fear that could be involved in the process, and you're doing a great job at managing it. I'm sure fear comes up. It's not like, you're without the fear, but externally, at least the way you show up, every time I communicate with you, I think you're doing a great job at managing that fear.
Yeah, the fear is there. I would not call it fearlessness. The fear is there. It's more courage than fearlessness. Like, the fear is there, and I'm doing it anyways.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been many years now of learning and constantly practicing new ways to manage with the fear and the stress and the anxiety.
Yep.
And it's not easy, but it's very rewarding. It's a journey.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, so maybe that's a good place to start. Share with me that journey of becoming an artist. What did that story look like?
So, growing up, I was always very into the arts in school and everything. Always working with my hands too. Like being in the garage, building things, building a tree house, like just figuring stuff out. And then in high school, I took art classes, AP art. But I was never really like this like art prodigy. I always compared myself to like other kids who were.
Yeah.
So like I started thinking like, okay, maybe I'm not, meant to do art. And then I also went to like a college prep school that it's like, go be a doctor or engineer or lawyer or else like you're a failure.
Right.
So I went to college and I studied engineering, and I worked a couple of years as an engineer in oil and gas. And just realized, well, it started a year into that. I learned how to meditate, and I started meditating daily. And 3 months after that, I started meditating. I started to have all these realizations of, how did I get here? What am I doing with my life? I don't actually like it here. And so that was when I was 23 years old. So since then, now I'm 33. It's just been a 10-year journey of leaving corporate world, starting freelance photography, freelance video, like creative, allowing more of my creative skills to come back online and learn, like break through all the limiting beliefs around making money and having a career, doing something that is fun and easy and comes naturally to me. And then, long story short, when COVID hit, I had just started painting again as an adult, and a lot of my freelance clients stuff got canceled. So I started, let me try selling my art and being my own marketing client. So since April 2020, I sold my first painting ever as an adult. And since then, it's just been like the client stuff has been going down and the art has been going up because I wanted to make that transition. And now it's full-time art.
It sounds like you have a conscious, like a distinction between artist and artist as an adult. You mentioned it twice. Maybe tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, when I was younger, artist as an adult is, to me, I want to continue making art as a career and making money from my creations.
Yeah.
So I think the kid in me, still, like the artist in me is kind of like my only child.
Yeah.
And he wants to make art for fun. So when I was younger, I was making art for fun because there was nothing at stake.
Yeah.
But now there's like two parts of me that needs to play. It's like the artist child who like makes the art, and I need to like do things that I enjoy. And then there's the adult artist who's the business owner and takes care of things like marketing and sales and websites and stuff like that.
And taxes.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So that's as an adult. And also there was about a 10-year gap that I didn't really make art. So in my mind, that's like the separation of like growing up artist and then now adult artist.
Right. It basically, you want to infuse that you're doing it as a career, as an adult, right? That your main income comes from art, basically.
Yeah, like it's a career, it's a job, it's a business, it's not a hobby.
For sure.
It's
what has been some of the biggest challenges of that being an adult artist?
God, how much time do you have? It's the hardest. It's so hard. I don't recommend it. It's but you know, it's really difficult and challenging, but at the same time, I think it might be the easiest career path because being an artist is expressing yourself as authentically as you possibly can, which is so simple and so it's so hard for a lot of people to truly be authentic and to express themselves in their work truly authentically, because there's so many voices of, well, people like this, will I get judged, like I wasn't allowed to do this in the past, blah blah blah, like the list goes on. But once you get there, and I'm not saying I'm there either, but my hypothesis is once you get there, it's now the easiest thing to do because you're just being you and you're expressing yourself. And then the stuff you create from that place of authenticity, people are drawn to it like a moth to a flame because they want to be authentic and they just feel the energy of authenticity in this work. And now it becomes easier to sell and market and it spreads like wildfire. Like I think people like Taylor Swift or like these top artists in the world, they're so popular because they're so authentically expressing themselves, and like their art comes from such a deep place that it resonates with the masses because people are just drawn to it. They feel the depth of it.
Makes sense.
So,
when you say, I'm not there yet, what would be the indicator that you are approaching the land of being there, as like you're in the vicinity of the land?
Well, I'm the closest I've ever been.
Right.
And I feel it at times. For example, some pieces that I make that are purely from this like joyful inner child place, those feel really authentic. And those are the ones that people like more and that sell. And then I'll notice, like just last month, I did a bunch of paintings that I realized afterwards they were coming from a place of like, I hope people will like this, or like, this is probably a good marketing thing. And those like landed flat. So those were lacking in like the authenticity, and I can tell. So I'm still learning of like that. Yeah. It's a constant self-awareness and reflection of like trying to follow the feeling of excitement and joy and like, what do I truly want to do in the absence of an audience, versus this will probably be good for the world, for the audience, so let me try that. But that usually...
Interesting, yeah, because, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of Ikigai, the combination, right? There is a place for finding something you truly love and what the world needs.
Yeah.
Right? And what you're talking about kind of contradicts that a little bit, where you say, oh, don't listen at all to what people need, just listen to what you need, type thing. Is that what I'm hearing? Or?
There's a fine line. I'm saying to listen to what I need to express from a place of true authenticity. And my hypothesis that I'm operating under is that the world needs...
That's what the world needs.
The world needs authenticity.
Right.
So whether I'm painting a blue dot or a beautiful landscape, if it's authentic to me, the world will feel the authenticity and be drawn to it.
Yeah. I think it comes in the package with you. What you draw authentically has to come with you authentically maybe talking about it.
For sure.
I think maybe, I mean, that's kind of my assumption here. Humans being so distracted with content, with all kinds of stimuli, by them seeing a dot on they will just skip it. They won't really appreciate the authenticness of that piece, right? It comes with you authentically talking about it. Only then they were like, oh yeah, I see that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's both. Some people would see the dot and just be like, whoa.
Right.
The talking about it helps way more. It's a story. The feeling and the emotion and the story of a blue dot is way more like that. It's kind of like branding, like a Nike swoosh. If you know nothing about Nike and you see that swoosh, it's meaningless.
Right.
But what gives it the power it has is like the story that we've all been told about that swoosh.
Right.
So it's kind of similar with art. Like that's kind of where like the adult marketer comes in.
Yeah.
It's like it helps to tell the story of this piece, and people appreciate it too, because then they have this piece at their home. They know the story of it, why it was made, all this stuff. They can tell their friends about it. And
for sure. So you've been gaining some traction on social media of you sharing your art, sharing yourself, your authentic self. What worked? How has that journey been? Kind of tell me a little bit more about the experience of sharing yourself authentically and talking about your art and like that.
Yeah. Gaining traction on social media. For me, it's always gone up when I have moments of like sharing more of myself and like especially parts that I'm scared to share or that I'm scared of being judged or mostly that. So lately I also realized that I was really holding back on my ability to create videos and photos of myself, which is like crazy because I've been doing freelance content production for like 7 years.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, let me actually because it's like I had this fear of it being too good and it being too like highly produced and too polished. And I'm like, and it was like kind of an imposter syndrome of I don't feel like I'm good enough to have content this good for me.
I'm kind of the opposite, actually.
Yeah, you're like overproduced.
Like trying to be as fucking produced as like.
Yeah, I know. This is like.
Yeah.
So
go all in, man. Just use all of your skills there.
Yeah. So that's been it. So that's what's really helped is breaking through different levels of expressing myself. And like, to be honest, this part of what has helped me grow my social media in the last 6-7 months has been posting more videos painting with my shirt off, which sex sells. It's the oldest trick in the book.
That's what people need also, like you feeling that hole there for people.
Well, I think what it is, a lot of my audience is male that has been attracted to me with my shirt off. So I think it's well, I'll just say for me, I've kind of been shy. I've always been really shy growing up.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also behind closed doors. Like when I'm home or when I'm painting, like I usually have my shirt off. Like it's just comfortable for me and it's hot in Florida.
Yeah.
So it was like scary for me to like, I'm most comfortable painting with my shirt off. To be filming and showing the process of me painting, I'm going to have my shirt off.
Yep.
So it was like kind of edgy and scary for me to like do that and to start posting it. And then once I did again, it just started going off. And like, it's a mix. Like a lot of people are now coming to me online because they like my art. A lot of them are just like, they just think I'm hot.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. Like both of it, the numbers go up, which is good for business. So.
And at what point how did you make that step as like, okay, today I'm going to make a video without a shirt? Like how did that? Wow.
So when I started in COVID in 2020, I was painting in my apartment and I had my shirt off just cause of what I just said.
Right.
And then I moved to a studio in Miami where it was a more public studio. It had glass doors and a bunch of people walking by. So I put a shirt back on because whatever.
Right.
And then I was like thinking, like at the end of last year, like, I was selling art more consistently when I was in my apartment with my shirt off than when I was in this studio with my shirt on. It was kind of like an experiment, which a lot of stuff I do are like little experiments.
Right.
So I did. And,
so that little aha moment, recognizing it, you're like, oh, let me try it now. And then.
But let me also combine it with more storytelling of my pieces.
Yeah.
Which it's almost like the shirt off is kind of like this Trojan horse that attracts a lot of traffic to my page.
Yep.
The algorithm starts to learn that people like my page. And then I'm also telling the story of the piece. This is another breakthrough for me of like sharing more of the depth and the emotion and the why of all my artwork and sharing more about my story as an artist and my creative process. So when people start to see that, then they start to connect with me and my art. And then eventually that leads to some sales.
Yeah. I wanted to consider two types of people. Let's focus on the first type, where they might be still working in a corporate and they potentially starting to hear that voice of a creator or somebody. They're basically want to unleash their creativity, but they don't know how. They don't know where to start. What kind of advice would you give to those?
There's so many options. Like, first off, I was there and I had my creativity totally shut off when I was working.
Yeah.
And so I totally understand. It can be to start to reconnect to your creativity. It can be as little as doodling, which a lot of people I'm sure doodle in their notebooks and during meetings and whatever. A friend of mine, I just influenced him this week. He went to an art store. He bought a sketch pad, a set of colored pencils and a pencil sharpener. And he sent me a photo of like his first drawing. So it's like stuff like that. I mean, it's the inner child. Your creativity stems from your inner child inside of you. So if you think back to that excitable feeling you had as a kid when you would be doing an activity you loved, like what do you think would bring you back to that? It could be going on a photo walk this evening with your iPhone and like just taking photos of stuff or getting a sketchbook or starting painting again. But the thing is, like, if you're in a job and you like your job, your career, and you just want to bring your doing these things on the side to reconnect to your creativity is actually going to improve your performance at work.
Yep.
Because you're activating these pathways in your mind of being more creative and more expressed, and it just ripples out.
Yeah.
So
it becomes more meaningful in general.
It becomes more meaningful. You become more interesting, everything is better. And people, I think, are scared of someone who is very into like the tech world recently that I met last year at Burning Man. I told him about this book, The Artist's Way, which is what helped me reconnect. And if someone's willing to like go deep, I recommend The Artist's Way. And I was telling him about it and he said, is there a risk this would turn me into an artist?
Okay.
A risk.
All right.
And I'm like, man, that's a fear that people have, that if I start expressing my creativity, I might turn into an artist and I might have to like quit my job and blah, blah, and everything will turn to shambles.
I think it's not he was sugarcoating it with that word. I think the underlying fear is, am I going to be broke and am I going to end up, just a broke person that no one cares about? Potentially they have that belief that artist equals that. And that's what they're asking probably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a belief, or it's a fear. Actually, I think the real fear is that it might shake up their world a little bit because at least that was my experience. Like once I started reconnecting to my creativity, it really shook up my world because I realized, wow, this feels so good to be expressing my creativity. How do I do more of this? How do I include this in my career? Blah, blah, blah. Which is not necessarily the path for everyone. Like I know plenty of people who are creators on the side and like it's their hobby. And they still have a full-time income from their job, which is like kind of nice, to be honest, to like not need to make money from your creative side.
Yeah. And so that's the first type of person. And the second person is a little bit further along their artistic journey. Let's say they trying to pursue that as their main thing. What what some advice would you give to those?
Yeah. So then the next category is people who have the job or a side gig. And then the art is kind of also a side gig that they'll sometimes sell, but they're not fully committed. And they sometimes work. It goes through spurts. My advice to them is to get really real with themselves and decide what they want most. That's the prompt I always tell people and that I use for myself. What do you want most? That word. Mm-hmm. Do you most want your art to be a hobby and to just enjoy it and do it for the fun and for the sake of creating art? Mm-hmm. Do you want most to make money with your art? And at that point, do you want it to be a full-time living? And then it's going all in on whatever direction you want most and cutting out other distractions, because I'm now a very firm believer in like single track focus. No having like 3 side gigs and like 5 projects you're working on with 10 different people. One track focus. So it's all about going deep and figuring out what do you want most and realizing that life is long, because then the fear is, oh, what if I get trapped doing this for the rest of my life? Well, you can do it for 3 years and then 3 years have gone by and then you do something else if you want, or you keep going for another 3 years. It's not.
You can reinvent yourself again if needed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's hard sometimes to answer the question, what do you want most? Maybe I would also suggest to give multiple answers. If you're unsure, give like 10 answers, and then it'll be easier for you to find the top one or top 3 at first. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. And
you can kind of like test drive them all too. And but for me at least, it's going back to the inner child feeling of excitement and joy. Like that's a really good needle directional compass.
What would you say art provides for you? Yeah. What does art give you in life and just?
I've been thinking about this for a while a lot lately. I think it's hard, maybe even impossible to explain in words why I make art and what it gives me. I think, and I think that's why I've heard other artists, especially painters, say things like, I paint because I must, or like, I don't know. It's hard to put in words why I make art. I just do because I want to.
Right. And internal calling, right?
Yeah. I think it's like a soul level desire to like do this thing that serves no practical function. Like it doesn't feed us or shelter us. It's just colors on a wall, It's so like logically it's like doesn't mean anything, but emotionally it's very important to have art in the world. And I don't know, maybe it's like a deeper emotional soul thing for me to like do it. But I like giggle at myself sometimes when I'm like painting or I'm on the way to studio. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this makes no sense, but like, I have to, like, I don't know. Like,
do you sometimes fear that the world will have not enough art, that maybe that's all? So the reason I'm asking is there are basically 2 ways of navigating life to move forward. One of them is being pulled by an attractor of some sort, which you've just touched on. And the other one is being pushed by fear of some sort. Is there a fear for you? Of, let's say, not enough art in the world, or me ending up in the place that undesirable, any kind of like fear that's pushing you that direction also?
There's a fear. Yeah, it's both. I have a fear personally of feeling trapped and feeling like a loss of freedom. And I think making art and working as an artist is like the most liberating freedom feeling that I can have. As far as art in the world, I have a fear. Well, not even a fear, because it's come to light. It's true already of architecture and homes and buildings being designed really sterilely. Like a lot of home construction and everything. It's like boxes and rectangles and flat white walls, and like there's very little creativity in it. And then you look at old banks, old libraries, old cities in Europe with cobblestone streets and ornate details. And like, no wonder Americans like drool over pictures of Europe,
right?
Because we're seeing actual detail and art and design. And You know, there's a feeling that you have when you walk through a hospital, and there's a feeling you have when you walk into a 5-star hotel lobby.
Sure.
Like it's like I said, art is so not practical and functional. It doesn't shelter us. It doesn't transport us. It doesn't feed us.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget. But when you think about the difference you feel in these places that have a lot of art and design, it's night and day. And it's so important because we are so influenced by our surroundings all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe there's an opportunity to expand the word practical. Practical in what sense? I mean, as we're becoming more kind of like ethereal beings, I don't know, we care more and more about things that don't exist in the physical world. I mean, the whole digital domain is the non-existent in the physical world. And practical in the physical world might mean very different what it is practical in this ethereal world. What might give an inspiration to someone, in my view, could also be considered practical. I don't know, like, you know, it's not like art is impractical by nature. I don't know.
Well, I guess it's what I'm kind of talking about practical as like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
So art is higher up on the pyramid. If the bottom is like safety, so it's like shelter, food, water.
Yep.
And then, well, I don't even know the order, but like art is higher up. So it is still a need.
Yeah.
But when I say practical, it's that. And maybe that's why good transition to AI.
Mm-hmm.
As AI is coming along and technology that we have had for years, industrial revolution, is helping us take care of the base level needs more and more.
Yep.
We're freeing up more of our time to go up the ladder and do things like spend time recording a conversation on cameras. This is not practical to our survival, but we have the time to do it because our needs are being met by technology.
Practical to survival, right? Not just generally practical. You're referring to that. I see. Yeah, it makes sense.
Because yes, art in that case is very practical because of how impactful it is to our well-being.
Yeah. And back to the point that you made about the architecture, that in a modern world, you look at the buildings, they're nearly not as exciting as and inspiring as the architecture of, previous centuries. I think it's mainly because we've been optimizing for a different thing. We've been optimizing for profit, and that screws things up, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. These buildings need to be built fast and cheap.
Right.
Designed fast and cheap. So,
right.
I just think it's misguided priorities.
So let's now start introducing technology, because the theme of the podcast is the human future, and technology playing a big part of the human future, in my view. Spirituality being the second big part. So in your experience, how has technology been a tool or thing that you integrate in your practice, in your work?
Well, I use AI right now. I guess the most technology I use is for marketing, not so much for the creating of the art itself. I love working with my hands, and I love the tactile offline element of the paintings that I make and other projects that I do.
Yep.
And I'm fully using the power of technology to market and to distribute my art.
Yeah.
So I think as a professional artist doing it full time, I'm going to use the best tools that I can get my hands on to spread my art and to share that art and to get it sold. Because as a business, that's important.
Yep.
So I've been using AI, like lately, ChatGPT, Claude, all these language models to help me with like marketing, brainstorming marketing ideas, doing market research, getting into the psychology of my market and buyers and why they buy art and what kind of messages to include in my marketing.
Yep.
That's been mostly what I've used. I know there's artists that love using technology in the actual making of the art.
Yeah.
As of right now, I'm a little less interested in that, although I do see myself getting into that eventually. I do have a mechanical engineering degree after all. But
do you see the difference between an artist that does purely low tech or no tech kind of type of art using tools that are, even though you probably could still consider them a technology, an art technology, but not information technology. It's a different type of tool.
Yeah, it's different.
Like a book is an information technology the same way computer.
Yeah.
And so do you set a distinction between those who are doing it purely digital on the computer like Photoshop or any other tools and someone like you who use technology in the creative process? It's the same thing.
It's different. I mean, it's a different end product, but
yeah,
it's the same creative process. Like, I don't think one is better than the other. I mean, a good example is you and me. I paint offline with paint on a canvas. That's my art.
Yep.
This whole setup is your art.
Yep.
And this is
My
your,
medium,
is your authentic artistic creation.
Right.
And like, that's why you love it. And that's why you're doing a whole thing with it. And this is like amazing. It's so different than mine, but it's just different. And then with like the digital artists and the AI art, which like all these artists are upset about.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's empowering more people to connect to their creativity. That's a great prompt for someone who wants to reconnect to their creativity. Make a Midjourney account and just start messing with AI art. Yeah. It's so fun.
Totally. Yeah. Do you think there's such thing as too much technology in creative process?
I think if it's hindering your output.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another topic I think about is there's a fine, like, when do you call something done? Okay. And I think technology and tools are a slippery slope of resistance from actually finishing something you're working on or even working on it, because it's easy to like get stuck in researching tools, researching what technology I need, going to get those tools, learning how to use them, setting them up, all this stuff. And that is all could be a form of resistance that you're using, and procrastination you're using to not face the fear of actually making the thing and finishing the thing.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, technology just plays I see it's a notion of perfectionism. Technology or like searching for the latest tools is just the manifestation of that, like a manifestation of your perfectionism. If there were no technology out there, you would still be like obsessing about like a paintbrush or some other things.
Right. Yeah, it's a different version of whatever.
So how do you see the evolution of art incorporating, so let's say as far as you can see in the future, what does art look like? Will it change? Will it obviously will change? How do you see that vision of people artistically expressing themselves?
I think the range of different art forms will continue to expand as technology gives us different ways of expressing ourselves. You can already see it in like textiles and clothing and fashion, and also obviously digital art. I think as back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as AI and technology keeps taking care of more things that we need taken care of, more people will have more time to creatively express themselves. Or they will use their free time and their leisure time to end up creating stuff. So I think, there'll just be more and more. I mean, we already see it with things like Etsy or like Patreon or even YouTube. Sure. Like more and more people are creatively expressing themselves in new ways, whether it's a full-time job or a hobby or a side thing or just for fun. So I think the range will just increase. And I think a lot of offline things are growing now and trending because I think people are starting to feel like if we're spending too much time on screens. So like vinyl sales are up, film photography is coming back, like all these offline things. So I think there'll be kind of like a boom in offline arts and a boom in online arts, technology mixed arts, which I think is going to be super interesting.
Do you think the boom in offline, like an old way of doing things, is growing because the total pie is growing and is just some more people going all over the place everywhere?
That's possible. I think it's both. I think both the pie is growing, but also especially since COVID, people are starting to feel like they're spending too much time on screens.
Right.
Too many Zoom calls, too much work from home. Like, I mean, I even feel it sometimes. If I'm on my computer too much, like my eyes start to hurt and like my neck hurts. I'm just like, man, I got to get offline. It like feels good. Last year I launched a magazine project. I did 4 issues of a physical hard copy magazine. It wasn't available online. And most of the feedback I got was like, man, I just love getting something offline again and like reading it. Like the tactile feel too. Like the digital world is amazing for information and everything, but can't get the tactile feel of stuff, which pleases all of our other senses besides our eyes and our ears, maybe, which technology can.
Yeah, for sure. Have you thought about the future in which humans don't have to work? Let's say some kind of universal basic income. Would that be a good thing, a bad thing, something in between?
I think it's both. I see the blessing of it, of our needs being met, and then the fear I have when thinking about that is that I think it requires a large amount of willpower and discipline to still be like healthy and productive. I guess the fear is like the movie WALL-E, where everyone turns into like out of shape blobs that just like you're fed everything and you know, it's almost like letting a dog loose that's not trained in a house. That's kind of like a fear of mine with not having to work. It's like I think people, this is good. I haven't thought much about this topic. I think the people that will do well in that model are people that put in the work to connect with their purpose and their mission and have like a driver to do something that's different than I have a job, which is telling me what to do.
Right. Yeah, I do see. So if we do end up, and it's becoming more and more likely, in a place where humans have less and less jobs to do, and so the government or some kind of force has to create some sort of universal basic income, there will be a big subset of people who do become blobs, and they do not necessarily deeply enjoy their life experience. They're just like a quick hits of pleasure. That will the whole range of the things that will be introduced to them. And those people eventually will die out because they probably won't even reproduce, and over time they will just fizzle out from existence. And then those who are connected to the spirit, to their deep why, those are the ones that will continue to procreate and continue to like purify the humanness in the future.
Yeah, and inspire the blobs to get off their ass.
Some blobs. Yeah, there will be those who are ready to transit to like right next to the bridge. They will help them to walk that bridge. And then further, people who are far away from the bridge, they're not even aware that the bridge exists.
So you think in this state, the universal basic income will be required, or
in that state of existence?
In the state of like AI and technology taking care of more people not needing to work, you think the universal income is going to be a requirement for that structure to work? That's just that society?
No, I definitely don't think it's a requirement. This is one of the solutions that has been proposed and considered, and one of the a more probable one. But the way life unfolds itself, quite often it's the least probable scenario that happens actually. And so I can't really imagine all of the improbable scenarios that could happen. That's why I'm kind of proposing universal basic income, so more people understand that that's a solution. Another solution potentially could be we figure out how to get access to almost free energy, and we have we've developed almost free or free intelligence, and with that, just free intelligence and free energy, you can create a world of abundance. Like, you know, you can have basically robots do all of the work for you because free energy, like you don't have to like pay for and then the intelligence that will be intelligent enough to sustain that. The whole hierarchy of needs, like the bottom layer, will be completely automated and streamlined and figured out. Humans don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is making me think of like the bottom layer of the needs, food and shelter.
Yeah.
We've had it figured out for thousands of years. So maybe the shift is in our consciousness to like finally stop worrying about it.
Well, that's someone from, first world country might also say, like, there's still parts of the world that are definitely don't have that. I would imagine. I know as a fact. I came from part of that world too. It's going to be it's not an overnight thing. Yeah. Although with the exponential evolution of technology, if we do in fact invent free energy, like let's say a very cheap source of energy that could spread very quickly, this in a similar way how internet spread throughout the world very quickly. So there's hope to transform the entire world really quickly.
I think I guess if we have that free energy and all these other things, it makes me think that the need or like humans' addiction to money will need to shift a little bit. We'll need to get lower, because if we have energy taken care of and food optimized with technology and whatever, then I guess we won't need really money as much.
I think as long as ego exists and it needs to express itself, we would still need some form of money to show off, basically, to show your wealth, to show how different you are.
True. And to feel safe, because money is resource.
Right.
Just a feeling of safety.
Before we started the recording, we started touching on the topic of uses of AI prompting. I guess we touched a little bit on that. I wanted to share with you some of the ways that I've been using AI. So one of the very useful ways that I've developed for myself would be journaling with the use of AI in post-processing and reflecting on my notes. So I created this automation where I would go on the walk with my headphones on while some kind of binaural beats sounds is playing, just to put me in the present state of awareness. And at the same time, it's recording. And in fact, it's recording only when I'm talking. So I don't have to stop or anything. It's just whatever I have a thought, thoughts go through your head all the time. Not always do we have an opportunity to pull our phone or a notebook and write it down. And a lot of those thoughts get lost. And luckily, a lot of the thoughts are repeating thoughts. Most of the thoughts are repeating thoughts. So that's also good to write them down and be aware that I've had this thought before. And so you don't have to spend as much time next time, like thinking about that again. But anyway, so I would go on the walk and record myself. So let's say for an hour, I record something. And then when I get home and I press stop, the whole sequence of automations happen. It pulls the recording, puts it in, Dropbox, whatever, and then transcribes it. And then AI runs it through. I have a particular way of parsing it. It's structuring it. Basically, all of my thoughts are kind of like unstructured stream of consciousness. Whatever comes through, I just verbalize it. I don't worry about structuring it or in any way. And it puts it. It basically sends me a nice structured email with all of the key takeaways, including advice for each, consider this or that. So that's been very insightful. And also it catalogs it into a Google Sheet database with the date. So everything that I said. So I've been creating a catalog of all of my thoughts with the intention of creating a mind map of all of the ideas that I've ever come across and create a visual representation of my thoughts. It's so that I can navigate them better. It's almost like surfing your mind visually also. Imagine you're talking in real time and you can see the map growing new branches, like, and you could see potentially connections to, it's almost like a universe with star systems and clusters and things like that. So the idea space is kind of like that. And it would be cool to, I think it's just another way of self-reflection, of understanding where you are even in a conversation. You could see like, okay, we're exploring this subdomain of knowledge, and there's another one near it that's there's a very useful connection here that we can explore as well, as something like that.
That is cool. Yeah, that's what you should be making content on that. Doing like a screen share of like how you have this whole automation set up and how you're using it. That's super cool. Yeah,
maybe I will eventually start. I mean, I've shared this with a number of people. Everyone's like, dude, you should totally like create an app or something about that.
Yeah, and like journaling. Speaking of offline things, like I love, every morning I journal by hand on paper, like 3 pages. I spend about 30 minutes. But like something like this to like give me prompts that it knows based on me, to like go deeper in certain areas, that'd be like super cool.
Yeah, what I would also recommend there, when you do I also do like journaling in the notebook, just the practice of, I do it with the pencil, like a precise, sharp little pencil, that I haven't had the experience with any kind of like stylus. They're all kind of crude and not unprecise, not as precise. So I really enjoy that practice as well. Photographing it and running it through AI to again to catalog it.
I've thought of that. I mean, I have like 20 journals at home, like stacks of stuff over the years. Yeah, I've thought about like it'd be cool to photograph all these pages and give it to AI and tell me about all my girl problems.
Yeah, man. You what you could do is hire an intern
to do it
for free. Yeah,
but is AI's handwriting reading capabilities pretty good?
It's really good. It's amazingly good. Yeah, it's really great. I mean, I don't know to what extent your handwriting is like
decent.
Yeah, I haven't had any problems with my handwriting being recognized. I mean, my handwriting is, I would say, pretty like legible.
Okay. I'll try it out.
That's a use case. And there's another one that I've been, a few use cases that I've been working on. YouTube videos, especially like podcasts or long form stuff that has a lot of like gold in there. You have to mine the gold. So I'm creating a gold mine for long form content for myself, just to like process. Same with books I mentioned to you, where you give it a whole thing, and it. I'm currently working on figuring out what is the best structure of the output. For example, like what do you actually want from that video? Like, yes, the summary, like explanation is one thing, but then you actually want something actionable, something that you can like grab and use somewhere else.
And then too, like giving the AI information about you, so it's giving you the summary tailored towards you and your goals.
Another really interesting one. Do you do like what are they called? Notes on your phone? Is that something is that a practice?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of notes?
Yeah.
So what I've done, it's same. I have a lot of notes, and I've been able to basically scrape all, like with this app, that I was able to basically take all of those notes, put them into one big document, give it to AI, and then it's basically a perfect mirror reflection. Then you can just say, tell me who I am, tell me some of the blind spots that I have, tell me some of the recurring thoughts, what advice do you have? Like, there's millions of questions that you can ask about yourself, because I don't know if you put any dates for the notes that you, I'm sure you could pull the dates when you like scraping the notes. I typically put a note, a date for each note, so it's easier for me. So my document already dated, so AI knows a year ago I'm writing about this, and then today I'm writing about that. And
but so your notes have like personal reflections and stuff. My notes are mostly like lists.
But your journals do.
My journals have the reflections.
So that's the gold mine for you.
That would be cool. I'm gonna.
Yeah. In general, I'm actually planning to record my entire day, my entire life in audio, and just start like. I know that there are all kinds of concerns people might have about that. Like, hey, you're giving out like all of your like privacy to some kind of third party.
So what drives you to this? It's like deeper reflection of the self.
Deeper understanding, of self, of others. You know, I've had experiences where I would have a deep dive conversation with a friend at home, and I just wanted to show them the power of recording the conversation and then working with that and asking questions. I didn't tell them that I was recording during the recording. At the end, I was like, by the way, I recorded it for you so that I can show you now what we can do with it. And then we would transcribe it and then start asking questions about each person in the conversation. That would be like, holy shit, there's so much insight about like how you communicate what you say. Because you might not, it's like a perfect mentor or psychologist, like somebody who is constantly by your side and can give you, like it could put a mirror and say, oh, look, like you're like that way, you know?
That's cool. I did something similar with GPT. I gave him our website and some of my marketing materials, and I said, psychoanalyze me, and got some good results from that, which gave me more ideas, marketing, and how to share myself more authentically.
Yeah, I'm sure you already know everything that I'm going to share with you after this. I'll show you something. In the preparation phase, basically what I often do, I scrape the last maybe 100 or 200 posts from Instagram and just get like who is this person? Tell me more.
Oh, I need to see that.
Things like that. And then I even asked what would be one piece of information that this person will be surprised to hear about themselves that might be true about them, that they know that they don't explicitly share online, but something that. So I'll give that to you.
I definitely want to see that.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
because my Instagram posts, the captions have like a lot of my personal reflections and stuff.
Exactly.
But I don't have it all saved somewhere to like easily. It's like actually most of them don't even exist. Like I don't have them saved. They only exist
you type
on Instagram.
them there straight.
I type them
into
there,
it.
and
Okay, yeah.
So I would love to be able to scrape my Instagram.
Cool. Yeah. So I've been diving deep into this whole automation thing and like scraping different things. So I can easily now scrape public accounts with this tool that I use. And it's been very useful for sure. Useful in so many different ways. And preparation for the podcast has been really useful. So let's say a little passage that you gave me, plus all of the scrape stuff, plus the reference for the podcast. It gives you really solid foundation how to prepare for a conversation like this.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I have a cool AI use case that I'm working on right now. So I have paintings. I have an inventory to manage. I'm currently using Notion as a database. So I have each painting, I have the name, the price, an image, description. And then once it sells, I'll add the buyer, their address, their email, the selling price, like everything.
Yep.
The series, the dimensions, the medium. So
all the metadata about the painting. Yeah.
So I'm working on a new website right now. It's almost done. And it's using CMS, Webflow CMS, which is basically a content management system. So basically, the website has its own database too of all my paintings. And it's automatically creating pages for each painting based on all that data that I give it. So I don't have to go and copy and paste each page and re-upload. Now the problem is my Notion database doesn't talk to the website and there's no integration. So I could use Make, but there's a learning curve there. So right now what and Zapier too also like has been like glitchy for me to like do these complex things. So I'm now having GPT walk me through and write the code for me of how to use the API from I'm actually switching to Airtable because it works better. To have the APIs so they talk to each other behind, so there's no middleman like Make or Zapier. And I'm going to have to set up my own server and like pay for like server, whatever, AWS.
That I'll give you the one that I'm currently, I just set it up like last week. I was looking into solutions like how do I create my own like, I mean, this just gets a little too technical. I don't know if
no, let's do
the listener will enjoy it, but I needed to to run my own Python code that would go to a YouTube video and scrape the existing transcript. Yeah. And then, all I do is inputting the link to the video, and it's outputting just the transcript. That's part of my automation. So I had to spin out a server with the Python code that AI helped me write. Right. And it's doing that for me. So I created that integration. Yeah.
What I'm working on and what you just did, I think is like a mental unlock that humans we're still getting used to. Mm-hmm. Because like, I think when search engines came online, mm-hmm. we had this mental unlock of like, oh, now I have access to all this information that I don't have to go pick up the encyclopedia anymore.
Totally.
And we had to like kind of retrain ourselves.
Yep.
So now with AI, like I never learned coding or computer science or all this stuff.
Yep.
But now I'm starting to like, more possibilities are coming into my mind now that I know that AI can walk me through it and it can do the coding for me mm-hmm. and literally tell me, go to here, click this button, type, copy and paste this code, put it in there, and then I'll be like, wait, it didn't work. And they'll be like, oh, try this, and blah, blah, blah.
Nice, yeah.
It's like,
I did the same thing.
So now I'm like, my mind is thinking differently about how to run my business and like what possible. I can create and what's possible because I'm like, oh, GPT can do it for me.
For sure.
Or like, I didn't know what Python was or like how to host a server, but like now I'm learning about it. But like, I don't have to be a coder or like this tech dude or hire a freelancer. Like I can just have GPT tell me exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm. I see the evolution of technology, especially in like coding and stuff, is there's like abstraction that's happening. So basically before coders would just write low level code, they really had to understand the logic and syntax and all of those things. Now we're at the point where we're telling AI, this is what I want to do, and it's giving you a piece of code. You don't really have to even understand what's in that piece of code. No. You're just like, okay, grab this and put it over there, and it works. Yeah. And I think eventually you won't even need to do a lower level, let's say, oh, I'm trying to achieve X, and in order to achieve X, I have to break it down into subcomponents and then say, oh, I have to achieve all of those things to be able to get to the desirable result. I think AI will just figure out this whole thing for you. You just say, I want this. Yeah. Is it here,
which is an unlock for our minds too. I think it's hard, at least for me, it's been hard to say to AI, I want the end result.
Right.
I would automatically think these are the steps that we need. And I would start, I want this step. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a second, let me just tell it the end result.
Right.
And have it tell me what the steps are to get there. And the other day too, I was spending so much time trying to figure out which platform to use for like the checkout process on my website. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, wait a second. So I had AI. I was like, listen, this is what's important to me, blah, blah, blah. Like help me choose which one to use. And it kind of helped me figure out which one was best for me.
For sure. Yeah.
Which was cool.
Yeah. Most people, with every client that I work with for photography and any other person that I interact with, I oftentimes ask them, how do you utilize AI? Like, I'm just curious, how do people use it? Especially in not so tech-oriented city like Miami. It's becoming maybe a little bit more than before, but definitely not like San Francisco where I was before, like where people very native now to AI. Like I'm sure a majority of people are using it on a daily basis often. But here in Florida, people still don't. Like oftentimes I work with people like lawyers and doctors and people like that. And they have no idea. Like most people have no idea. Yeah, they're still, everyone is still using Google and they're,
should we talk about people that are scared of AI or like scared to use it because it's a threat to their jobs?
There's this whole topic that I wanted to touch with you about natural and artificial. Maybe we'll end up there before we talk about the fear of technology, where it's all headed. Yeah, because you had some thoughts that you've shared a little bit with me about that.
Well, yeah, it's a fear of. I think a lot of people have a fear that AI is going to take their job, and make them obsolete. Which I see like a lot of doctors and lawyers are scared to use AI because they don't think the AI is as good as they are because they went through 20 years of medical school.
Right.
So, but I mean, it's already being proven that AI is really good at like diagnosing, like reading x-rays and stuff. Totally. I don't really know. I'm not an expert on this, but
100%.
I'll talk about the art.
I'll give a quick note there. I don't think it's from what I've sensed by talking to people, it's not about fear. It's about a denial. They're just totally in denial that it's coming. You know what I mean?
That's something this tool can like be as good as I am after I spent 20 years of my life training.
Exactly.
You know, and I get it. That's tough.
Yep.
But if you accept it, like a lawyer's case, this AI can do like a ton of research for you and speed up your process to look at old cases and look at precedent and research the law. That's great.
I think people will be in the loop of those important fields like law and medicine for a while, but the nature of jobs will completely change.
Yeah.
The responsibility will still be on humans. I don't see the future in a near future where we just completely give it away to AI and say, here, run this whole thing. Humans don't have to do this at all.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think, maybe just the rate of things will speed up. But like if you and I have a disagreement and we need to get the law involved, like you and I still need to eventually come to terms and figure it out, even if AI is helping speed up research and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the AI and art, you wanted to mention something there?
Oh yeah. I think I see a lot of artists and a lot of people post. Well, first off, there's AI art, like the image generators, which that's definitely a huge risk to a lot of jobs, like even photographers, because you can just have AI generate a whole photo campaign with like fake models and everything. Graphic designers too. So I think there's a real risk, but I think it's more of a tool. So like graphic designers, the human still has the human touch and like the human soul and the human understanding of humanity that AI still doesn't have. Maybe it'll get it, maybe it won't. I don't know. But for now, I think AI is a tool. Like I see when I was working with clients, and I'm sure you feel this with clients too, like if it's easy for me to take a headshot photo of someone, you know, part of me thinks like, why don't they do it themselves? Like it's so easy.
Right.
But like they're not going to. So same thing with AI.
Right.
Like I could use AI to like do something for a client, but in my mind, I'm like, it's so easy. Why don't they just do it?
Right.
Because they don't want to, or they don't know how, or whatever.
Right.
Like they're just not going to.
Right.
Like it's still, AI is still this tool that, you know, I think this kind of goes to like, every time there's a huge technological revolution, everyone is scared that it's going to take their jobs, and life goes on, and like we figure it out. And then every time people say, oh, this is different. And that's what they're saying now. But like life goes on. Like we're going to self-select and everything's going to come out in the wash and all the bricks are going to fall as they may.
Right.
But I guess you could say the same thing with cameras. Like when digital cameras came out, like photographers were probably like, oh no, like people can start doing their own photography. But that doesn't happen. Like people still hire photographers to use the technology tool to do the thing.
And then the whole like a meta topic of, so the whole artificial wave and technology introducing a lot of artificial things, and the word artificial oftentimes have the negative connotation. And I like what you shared with me before we started recording, or when you texted me, that it's all Mother Nature. It's all just a natural process. So share with me your thoughts on how you see it. Yeah,
well, I think in this topic, I think in fractals, like Mother Nature, the way she expresses nature and plants and humanity and everything, the way each of us express ourselves is kind of a fractal of nature. And something being artificial or man-made, like because humans, we are made of nature. Anything we make is also technically being made of nature by the transitive property.
Yes.
At least that's what I believe. So something like AI is still nature made.
Yes.
Or like man-made, you know, this is like kind of weird to think about, but even man-made foods that are unhealthy for us, those are still natural products technically because they're made of at the base bone, like natural things.
Yeah.
So like maybe
that's crazy.
Maybe like this overpopulation issue.
Yes.
Like depending what you want to believe of the earth, maybe nature's way of correcting too many humans being here
Yes.
is by guiding humans, nature, to create unhealthy things and like lowering fertility and everything, a natural process so that there are less humans on the planet.
Yes.
Like this is all I think, it's the ego that has this fear of death and pain and people dying and like the population shrinking. But maybe it's just a natural process. So the same thing goes with like AI. It's artificial because humans made it, but we are natural. So maybe AI and all these digital art and creations is still a natural process.
Man, it's crazy how similar, if not the same, your train of thinking is about this topic. I've thought about this the exact same way.
Yeah.
And then later I've recognized there's still usefulness in putting some things into the bucket of artificial, because we do have the term artificial and natural. And so for the majority of people, they have a certain understanding of what that is.
Yeah.
And so to have some kind of usefulness when we assign the word artificial to something. And so I started digging deeper into the topic of like, what is the minimum requirement for something to become artificial? Like what does it have to, like, how does the artificial emerge as, at least in the sense of what do we consider artificial? And so what I discovered is anything that humans, basically conscious agents, any kind of like change to the physical matter, they apply their conscious intent. Let's say there's a piece of wood and they're applying the conscious intent in making a wooden chair. Without this conscious intent, there was no way nature would have designed a chair. And that's why we consider that thing artificial. Yes, you could still consider the whole process as like, a big bang and the whole thing just happens as one big natural process. That's true. But the natural tends to be understood as something that humans didn't mess with, that came before, that exists outside of, or how would I say it?
Well, it's like in this explanation, we're removing ourselves from nature. Like humans are different than nature. So that chair had to occur because us being different than nature influenced the wood to become a chair.
And then by us, I think it's more about, because our physical body is natural. And then most people would say, I am my body, even though that's not actually the case. I think it's the emergence of ego and self-awareness and agency that's acting on the world, that's spilling out the artificial onto the world.
So do you think the ego and the spirit is different than the natural world?
Again, I do think that there's one big happening and everything is part of that big happening. Whether we call it, because we can get lost in the term natural, because that's not what people typically understand when you tell them, oh, this is natural. This is like, maybe there's a better word because that describes the whole totality of the happening of the universe.
Which includes consciousness. So maybe natural is like of the three-dimensional earth materials, like physical materials. And then consciousness is what creates artificial things. Maybe consciousness messing with the wood to make it a chair. Is what makes it artificial. But then there's time, because now if you ask someone, is a wooden chair natural or artificial, and you put it next to a plastic chair, they would probably say the plastic chair is artificial and the wooden chair is natural. Because that's where we're at with technology. I think I would. If there was a plastic and wood.
You would call it a wooden chair a natural thing, and then
or like cotton clothing to me is natural versus like polyester clothing, which is more artificial.
Out of the natural materials, maybe. But the actual new thing should be considered artificial because it was man-made.
The cotton shirt, I guess technically it would be artificial. I'm curious what the root of the word artificial is and how it relates to art and artifact.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't gone that rabbit hole yet. Man, there's an unlimited amount of rabbit holes that we can dive into. I think this is maybe a good place to wrap up the conversation. And whoever is still here listening to us, thank you for your patience and sticking through the whole conversation. I hope you enjoyed at least bits of it, maybe all of it or some of it. In any case, where can people, well, maybe the last message potential that you might have for people, and then how people can find you?
My last message is, in everything I do, I love inspiring people to be more creative and to just do what they want with their lives. So on the topic of everything we talked about, I would say go play with AI. Make a Midjourney account and play with some image generating. A good prompt could be design your ideal house, your ideal interior. Go play with ChatGPT. Just, I don't know, go play. Playing is the best way to reconnect to your creativity and will have so many benefits to your mental health and everything. So people can find me on my website or Instagram. It's the same URL for both, juliancastro.art. And I'll see you on the internet.
Nice, man. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is how it goes.